Hello, in this video we'll be discussing how to add and modify students. So here I am in a brand new site with no students and no attendance entered. And over here to the left you'll see a students menu, and in that menu you'll see a student master list link. Clicking on that will take you to your student master list. As expected, there are no students in my brand new site. There are three ways to add students to a site. If you look over here to the right, you will see an import pull down. And this pull down will have two options. You can import from a file or import from a feeder school. So let's try feeder school first. So the first thing we need to do is pick a feeder school. Now you are always your own feeder school. So if I'm in training session number 10, I could select my own school and I could select the prior year, and I could import kids from the prior year to the current year. Because this is a new site, I don't have any students in the prior year. And so what I'm going to do is pick another feeder school, one that I know has students in it. I will select the current year, and there's my list of students. So in this case, maybe I wanted to select Tess Kelly and Abigail Douglas. I'll look here to the bottom. I can cancel, I can import, and if I were pulling students from the prior year, I may want to increment their grade level. I'm not going to do that here. I will just click import, and there are my students. The next way to import students is a little more powerful, but a little more tricky. I'm going to import from a file. And if you read the instructions, it says select a file, then click import. It hasn't told me yet what the file needs to look like. It tells me that any row with an error detected, like a missing CSIS ID, non-numeric grade level, etc., will be skipped, but the rest will be imported. Under bullet number 3 is where it will give you your import template. So let me just click on that. And what you're going to see is the required format for your import. Every column is going to have a header description, and it's going to describe exactly what's expected. So you're required to have a CSIS ID, and it must be 10 digits. You're required to have a last name, a first name, a grade level, which must be numeric, and so kinder would be 0, TK would be -1, and so on. This template may get longer as we add import items, but if you look at the first two rows, these are examples of what your input should look like. When you create your own input file, you can remove the two sample rows if you'd like, or you can leave them there. The system knows that these special CSIS IDs are to be skipped. Now I happen to have one of these prepared, so let's open that up. And here's my prepared import file. It has a few hundred users, and I've purposely left errors in here just to see what happens when we do the import. So for example, K should have been 0, TK should have been -1, female should have been F or M, true should have been Y or N, yes should have been labeled Y, and so on. So I'll go back to the system, and I'll read the last bullet point. You may re-upload your files many times as you'd like. If a student with the same CSIS ID is already enrolled, their data will be updated as opposed to being imported. This is why our import template requires IDs. So let me drag my file over. There it is, and I will just click import and it will start doing its thing. And there it goes. So I'll speed up the video now so you don't have to wait. And so now that it's complete, you'll notice in the background here that my students did show up, and this import students pop-up is showing me where the errors are. Now, of course, we know what was wrong. For example, row number 2, Alfred Craig, had a K instead of a 0. And so I could just fix these and re-upload the file, because remember, you may re-upload this file as many times as you'd like. It won't create duplicates, as long as your IDs are correct and consistent. And that is how you import students. And so before I show you how to add a student manually, I'd just like to edit one student. So let me pick the first one on the list. It's Annabella Adams. And so I could give her an ethnicity. Let's say she's Hispanic and part Asian, and she's maybe an English learner, and her release status is Walker, and so on. And so if I look at this early release late arrival tab, I could give Annabella Adams an early release or late arrival schedule. So I could say that at Monday, she's leaving at 4:30 because of a family obligation. The reason being karate practice, which isn't a good excuse, but for the purposes of demonstration, it'll work. I could add a list of individuals who are authorized to pick her up. I could add some parent info here. And I could add some medical information. For example, allergies requiring epi, whether or not she has asthma, I can describe any illnesses or hospitalizations. I can add medications, and so on. I'll click Save. And now Annabella Adams is updated. And so if I were trying to type a student in by hand, I would click the plus student button here in the upper right-hand corner, and I would fill out this information in the same way that you saw with Annabella a moment ago. And so now I have my list of students who can be added to rosters. And as I enter attendance into those rosters, these attendance statistics will update automatically. Now this blue grid has some filters at the top, and these filters are covered in the SiteLead Quick Start video. So let's say, for example, that I was looking for all of my walkers. I could just find my walkers, and that's okay. But if I were wanting to set up all my walkers, at least as it seems now, I'd have to go into, let's say, Frederick Adams, select him as a walker, click Save, and continue on. So there is a better way to do this. And if you look up here to the upper right-hand corner, you will see a bulk edit pull-down. Now currently, there's only one type of bulk editor, but we hope to add several in the future. But this type of bulk editor is the release type. So if I click on that, what you're going to get is a screen. And this screen works much better on larger computer screens. And you have a list of columns. We like to call these swim lanes. So this swim lane is your student master list. This is your list of walkers, students who are going to be picked up, and bus riders. And from here you just drag and drop. So I'm going to select a few students. I'm going to move them over into the pickup swim lane. Maybe a few more students are going to go into the bus rider swim lane. And maybe all my kinder students need to be picked up. So I will select all those, move them over here, come back. Let's add a few more walkers. I will click Save. And now this is populated. So now I could filter just my walkers. Just my bus riders. And depending on what filters I have set up, I can just export that list if I so chose. Now later, when you do start to enter attendance, you can use these pull downs to filter your students by their enrollment patterns. And this is all there is to adding and editing students. You can import from a file, from a feature school. You can add a student by hand. You can export this list. You can bulk edit. You can double click to edit a student. And you can filter individual columns. Thank you.